Neither one of the guys. Oh, that's it. He's out. Oh, he's out.
To the body. And it is all over! Jon Jones is the youngest champion in UFC history!
Bones.
Doing a good job defensively, though. Oh, yeah, a shot there. Oh, yeah, that hurt. He's hurt. Jon Jones was hurt. Bear is hurt. Jon Jones. It is all over.
Arguably the greatest pound-for-pound fighter in UFC history.
And he did that when he used his wrestling. Oh! Again, they battle in another big knee.
From upstate New York to the combat sports mountaintop. From UFC wunderkind to disgraced former champion. This is the story behind Jon Jones. Jonathan Dwight Jones was born July 19, 1987 in Rochester, New York, to Arthur and Camille Jones. Arthur, a pastor, wanted Jonathan to follow in his faithful footsteps and become a preacher, but the young Jones and his siblings were more drawn to athletics. Both of Jones's brothers would end up becoming NFL stars. John played football too, and it was during his time as a defensive lineman at Union Endicott High School that his coach gave him the nickname Bones due to his lanky frame. However, it was on the mat rather than the gridiron that Jones distinguished himself in high school, becoming a state champion in wrestling. He then won a junior college national championship at Iowa Central and eventually dropped out of Morrisville State College to pursue a professional MMA career. As a pro, he dominated opponents much the same way he did high school wrestlers as a teenager. After whipping off 6 straight wins to start his career, none of which were left to the judges, Jones earned an opportunity with the UFC in 2008, only 4 months after his professional debut. After upsetting Andre Gusmao in front of less than 2,000 fans at the Palms Casino Resort, despite taking that fight on 2 weeks' notice, Jones quickly began to climb the ladder at Dana White's promotion. Using a unique combination of takedowns and spinning strikes, the 6'4", 205-pound prodigy laid waste to the competition. He upset UFC veteran Stephen Bonner at UFC 94 in 2009, tapped out Jake O'Brien at UFC 100 later that same year, and parlayed his perfect start into a multi-fight contract. The first dose of controversy came in the first fight of that new contract though, as Jones was disqualified for using 12-6 elbows on Matt Hamill in a bout at 2009's The Ultimate Fighter heavyweights finale, a decision that White vehemently opposes to this day. Jones dominated the match early, and Hamill couldn't continue due to a dislocated shoulder, but Jones's illegal 12-6 strikes kept him from maintaining a spotless record, as the Nevada State Athletic Commission upheld his disqualification. Nevertheless, Jones continued on an upward trajectory, with a 2010 TKO victory over decorated light heavyweight veteran Vladimir Matyashenko, propelling him to another stratosphere within the UFC. White promised bigger fights to come, and Jones continued to dismantle every opponent his boss brought before him, notably handing Ultimate Fighter winner Ryan Bader his first professional loss with a guillotine choke.
Oh, he's going for a guillotine. It enables him to attack with chokes. Oh, he got it! It's all over! Jon Jones chokes out Ryan Bader! Wow!
By then, the rising star had his eyes set on the light heavyweight title, and a timely knee injury to training partner Rashad Evans proved to be the opening Bones needed. Evans had been scheduled to take on light heavyweight champion Mauricio Shogun Rua at UFC 128 in 2011. But due to the knee injury, ended up getting replaced on the card by Jones, who was only 6 weeks removed from his win over Bader. Shogun, like so many fighters before and after him, proved no match for Jones, who at 23 years old became the youngest champion in UFC history.
Jones to the body, and it is all over! Jon Jones is the youngest champion in UFC history!
As if the story of Jones's meteoric rise culminating in a title wasn't already good enough, it turned out that just hours before his first championship fight, he had helped apprehend a man who robbed a woman in New Jersey. Fighting crime by day, dominating opponents in the octagon by night, Jon Bones Jones had quickly become a UFC superhero, and brands were noticing. The next chapter of Jones's career was defined by an injury-delayed rivalry against former training partner Evans, whose title shot Jones had snatched. 3 fights and 13 months after defeating Hua, Jones beat Evans via unanimous decision. But this period also marked the end of Jones's easy-go-lucky relationship with the brash White, as the UFC president was enraged when Jones refused to fight Chael Sonnen at UFC 51 on 3 training days' notice, after original opponent Dan Henderson pulled out due to injury. UFC 151 would eventually be cancelled, the first card in history to be called off. This is one of the most selfish, disgusting decisions, White said of Jones's refusal to fight Sonnen in a replacement fight at the top of the card. I don't think this is going to make Jon Jones popular with the fans, sponsors, cable distributors, television network executives, or other fighters. Nevertheless, buzz for an eventual bout against Sonnen continued to build, and after competing as opposing coaches on a season of The Ultimate Fighter, Sonnen got his chance at the champ at UFC 159 in 2013. Though the result likely did nothing to help White forget the disaster that was UFC 51 7 months prior, Jones and Sonnen finally getting in the ring together only proved the two fighters were in different leagues, as Bones stopped Sonnen with a first-round TKO.
Oh, Chael's swarming on as Jones, big knee, looking to finish this fight early. All over him right here in the first round. Jon Jones has finished Chael Sonnen!
The most celebrated victory of Jones' championship reign came on September 21st, 2013 at UFC 165 in Toronto, where Jones survived an instant classic against Alexander Gustafsson, winning the epic bout via unanimous decision. So iconic was that 2013 Jones-Gustafsson clash north of the border that in 2021, the match was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame's fight wing. Not long after that fight, however, Jones' career and personal life began to unravel. The biggest rivalry of Jones' career was a years-long feud with Daniel Cormier, which began with a backstage encounter in 2010 and eventually came to a head 4 years later, before the pair ever officially squared off. During a promotional stop for a scheduled 2014 fight versus Cormier, who was replacing the injured Gustafsson in what should have been a UFC 165 rematch, Jones earned a $50,000 fine from the Nevada Athletic Commission for throwing a punch at Cormier. Jones ultimately beat Cormier via unanimous decision a few months later, but it was eventually revealed that Jones tested positive for cocaine metabolites in the lead-up to that fight. Because the metabolite in question wasn't banned by the World Doping Agency, Jones got away with 1 night in rehab and a $25,000 fine by the UFC, but his reputation had taken a significant hit. Still, Jones continued to sabotage his career with increasingly troubling and dangerous behavior. He was stripped of his light heavyweight title in 2015 and suspended 6 months for a New Mexico hit-and-run incident in which it was alleged Jones ran a red light and fled the scene of a multi-vehicle collision that left a pregnant woman injured. Jones received a sentence of 18 months supervised probation after pleading guilty to leaving the scene of an accident. After more than a year away, Jones won a return fight over Cormier injury replacement Ovince St. Preux at UFC 197, but was then suspended again, this time by the US Anti-Doping Agency, before another scheduled rematch versus Cormier. Jones was also once again stripped of his title by the UFC for the doping violation. After serving his second suspension, Jones and Cormier finally met in the octagon again at UFC 214 in 2017, with Jones growing increasingly irritable with Cormier-fueled questions about his sobriety.
I wasn't recovered last time we fought, and I whooped his ass. So whether I still drink or I don't drink, it's no one's business, and that's not why we're here. We're not here to talk about whether I like Marlowe or Patron. We're here to talk about winning a fight, and which I did last time, and which I'm getting ready to do here in 11 weeks. Daniel would love for the narrative to be Jon's sobriety, or is Jon a good person, or is he a good Christian, or is he whatever. None of that shit matters. We're here for a fight.
Bones recaptured his light heavyweight title with a third-round knockout of his arch-nemesis. However, only a few weeks later, the belt was given back to Cormier after it was revealed that Jones had tested positive for an anabolic steroid the day before the match. This time, Jones was forced to serve a 15-month suspension by the USADA. Overcoming his own self-created adversity, Jones once again returned to the UFC in commanding fashion with a TKO victory over Gustafsson in a highly anticipated rematch at UFC 232 for the vacant light heavyweight title.
Big shot by Jon Jones. Trouble here. Gustafsson's in trouble. That's it. Jones has regained the throne. Wow. Jon Jones stops Alexander Gustafsson in round 3.
Jones then successfully defended his reclaimed championship 3 times between 2019 and 2020, becoming the winningest UFC fighter of all time in title bouts. But it became tougher to celebrate his unwavering excellence when everyone knew he should have gotten more out of his once sparkling career. Jones was an unstoppable force in the octagon, and appeared to be the mixed martial arts world's most marketable star before throwing it all away, appearing in just 6 bouts over the last 8 years. In 2019, Jones pleaded no contest to a charge of disorderly conduct stemming from an incident in which it was alleged that he slapped a woman at a New Mexico strip club, put her in a chokehold, and touched her despite her pleas for him to stop.
I got out of the thing, and then as soon as I did that, he just like picked me up and like, you know, flipped me over or whatever, and then like just kind of started roughhousing with me.
In 2020, Jones, who had previously faced a DUI charge in 2012, pleaded guilty to a DWI charge that stemmed from an incident in which an Albuquerque officer heard a gunshot, then found Jones showing signs of intoxication in a vehicle with a handgun under the seat.
Did you just hear a gunshot?
I did it.
You did hear one?
Yeah, I did.
Where'd it come from?
Who knows?
What's what, Debbie? Oh, there it is.
What is it?
Handgun.
A 2021 domestic battery charge was eventually dropped, but Jones pleaded no contest to a felony charge of tampering with a police vehicle in that case, which saw him arrested only hours after the Hall of Fame induction ceremony for his original fight versus Gustafsson.
I hate you. I hate you. No, please don't.
Following that 2021 arrest, Jones tied his tumultuous behavior to past traumas in now deleted tweets, stating that he was molested as a child and was still dealing with the deaths of his mom and sister. Camille died in 2017, while older sister Carmen died of cancer when she was only 17. In that series of tweets, Jones also swore off alcohol. A year and a half later, and 3 years since his last fight, Jones is on track to return to the octagon at UFC 285, where he'll fight Cyril Gane for the vacant heavyweight championship. That title marks the final frontier of Jones's MMA expedition, as he made his heavyweight ambitions clear when he vacated the light heavyweight title in 2020. Jones will enter that return fight with a record of 26-1, his only loss being the controversial disqualification against Hamill. But how will he be received by the UFC and its fans when he once again takes center stage in the world he once fearlessly reigned over? On one hand, the world of combat sports is getting one of its greatest performers back, arguably the best pound-for-pound fighter in UFC history. On the other hand, there will no doubt be some who feel Jones should have by now lost the privilege of being able to take that stage at all, that no measure of redemption in the octagon could possibly erase the stain of Jones's last 8 years. In any event, if Jones does make it to his next scheduled fight, don't be surprised if even after another lengthy absence, the same cold hard truth remains, that in the octagon, Jon Bones Jones has no equal.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.